Welcome back to FVTV. Tonight, joined by Derek Collin, myself, Darren Murphy, and we have Darius Charles on FVTV. Happy to see you, Darius. How are you?
Happy to be here. I'm good, brother.
How are you keeping in the current lockdown situation?
Yeah.
Just before we start, just introduce you properly, Darius. So Darius plays with Wycombe Wanderers in the UK, because we have a lot of Irish listeners. But yeah, so how are you coping at the moment?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I mean, we're quite fortunate because, like, our chief exec has like promised us all our wages as well. So, like, financially, we're sound. It's just a case of like making sure that we're staying, I guess, as fit as possibly can be. So when we do go back, if we do go back, that we're ready to kind of like hit the ground running. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose kind of similar to most footballers we've had on here on the show. Yeah, look, Darius, what we do normally is kind of just get as many good football inputs out there as we can. So, like, I suppose I would have met you at Stevenage, but we never really spoke about, your past or where you came from or where your football inspiration was or when you first kicked the ball. So, if you can just go through it there a small bit and tell us, like, where did you start and where did you come from?
It all started. It all started. So I'm originally from West London. And growing up, I shared my time between West and South London, between like my mums and nans and my uncles who used to live in Brixton. And at about the age of like 10, like 9, 10, I started getting into football because I wasn't really into it before. And then I used to play in the park with my uncle, and he would always say to me, "Oh, you don't want to play football. You don't want to play football." I'd be like, "No, I swear I do. I swear I do." So we would go out, right, on like the worst days ever, wet, mud everywhere. And we played this game where I would literally dribble the ball and he would just hack me at the heels. Like, that was the game. Like, there was no objective apart from like stay on your feet type thing. And then like I really enjoyed that game. So I went from there to like playing for my Sunday league side. And then there was this like initiative in the community where like the police team up with like the local football team, which was Brentford for me. And they like opened up a cage area on my estate. And they had like this tournament, this big tournament. And I remember like, and like all the boys were like, "Oh, Darius, like let Darius play. Because obviously, we were used to playing on the estate all the time. And thankfully, after like waiting for like 2 hours, like someone dropped out, so I played. And then after playing, they were like, "Oh, like, do you fancy coming down to Brentford and mucking about with the boys or whatever?" So I was like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to." So I had to like sprint home, get my mum, bring her to the park so she could sign the forms and that. And then I remember getting there. Now it wasn't what you would call the academy nowadays. It was what you would call the like the curriculum that they run alongside it. I can't remember what they call it, but it's like kind of like football in the community type thing. It's not, you're not on your pathway to play in like getting scouting, scholarship and all that.
Yeah, what age were you when that happened?
I would have been about 11 then, about 11, 12.
Okay.
And then, so I remember we went up to Carrington training ground and played United. Like, I'd only been there for like 6 weeks and then we got to play United. So I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." So then we must have smashed them like 12-5. I scored like 7 goals. And they were like, "You need to come into our academy." I was like, "Wicked." So then that was like where it kind of started for me. Like, I went to the academy at about the age of 13.
How did United sign you after scoring 7 goals?
Mate, all I could think of was, where is Alex Ferguson? That's all I could think the whole time. I'm like, I have to meet Alex Ferguson. Like, he has to be here watching this. But, he must have been asleep or something, having a nap, or I don't know. Because the way I played, how I haven't played in the Prem to this day is beyond me. I'll be honest, because I was incredible. But so that was like kind of where it started for me. And I got my scholarship at Brentford. I got a pro there. I spent a lot of time out on loan when I was, say, 21, 21, I went to Ebbsfleet in the conference. So I'd played against you lot, obviously, twice. And I remember, funny enough, because I always say this, I remember one time you hacked me down in that game when we was at Ebbsfleet. And funny enough, Ebbsfleet, we got relegated from the conference that year and you guys got promoted. And Wesley obviously brought me in that year. And that was the start of, obviously, that crazy, magical weird Stevenage ride.
Yeah, because like Derek, I suppose, like listening to that, you'd be thinking, there's so many opportunities in the UK, like to just go down and play football in the park, and you kind of get picked out. We don't have that here.
That's insane.
No, and I was interested in hearing Darius saying that there, because after talking to Joe last week about talking about young fellas needing to train more and get on the ball more and work on the technical side of the game. We don't have that really in Ireland yet, though it started a couple of years ago. We've an under 13 and under 15 League of Ireland National League, But before a couple of years ago, there was none of that. So what was it like, Darius, when you were training at that age, say 12, 13, when you hooked up with Brentford first? So what did it entail?
So for us, we used to train twice a week at a decent facilities. It was called Cranford University, and it was like a college for sports. So they had a massive like AstroTurf facility, and it was the rubbish stuff. But back then, like it was, 3G. It was the nuts, and it was a really good setup because we felt like it felt professional. You could tell the difference between like playing Sunday league and go into what wasn't even the academy at Brentford, which was kind of, like I said, like just a footballing community type thing. So it was a big jump in terms of not necessarily ability, but in terms of just the facilities we had at the time.
So you used to train twice a week and you used to play a match then as well, Darius, is it?
Yeah. So we trained twice a week. Yeah, so we trained twice a week, and then we would play on the Sunday.
And what happened then when you progressed to the academy, sir?
So the academy was one extra day worth of training, and again, it was like you had actual kind of coaches that had their UEFA B, UEFA A, because we were fortunate enough to get them from time to time when we were with the advanced camp. But this was, your UEFA A, your UEFA B, or at least striving to get their coaches. So, and it was that was when I noticed the difference in terms of like the mindset. And it's crazy because it's like, I look back at it now, my son's 10 and he plays for Fulham. And it's like, I look at him and I go, in 3 years' time or in 2-3 years' time, like he's going to look like, if he wants to play football, he's going to look like a completely different animal. Like, or he will have to, because there's kids that age that are really, really like, they want it,
Yeah, I seen you on Instagram a good few times with the young fella going to like what the dad diaries. They're very good actually. You're going to the little games in the park. But yeah, just even some clips there. Young fellas are quality, like, aren't they? But do they understand at that age like what it takes to make it and like how good they need to be, or how aggressive they need to be on the ball, or what you're speaking of?
I think now, I think yeah, because I think there's a lot of pressure on these kids, So I'll give you an example of what it's like. So my son's 10, right? He trains Monday. So we go to school Monday evening from 5 till 7:30. He trains. He does the same again on Wednesday. On Saturday, he trains from like 9:30 till 12, and then he has a game on Sunday. So at 10, he's training 2 hours a day for 3 days, and then they play an 80-minute match, which is broken up into like 2 games with 2 20-minute halves. So they're playing a lot of football. That's 4 days a week of actual like structured academy football.
And is the game against other academies? Sorry, Derek.
I was just saying, my two kids, like, say you look at it here in Cork, if you're at 10 years of age, you're going to be training once maybe, and you might have a match at the weekend. That's about it. Train for an hour and a half.
Yeah. And that just goes to show, like, obviously football is big business, but if you see the facilities that these kids have, like, and I'm not saying that all the academies, but what they class the Cat 1 category. So any academy that has a dome, like a footballing dome, man, they're laying on. My son last year, right, went to France for a football tournament, and they had the likes of PSG, Sporting Lisbon, Roma, Juventus, like all these teams were there. And I'm like, I was playing in the park at your age. You've already, like, if you quit tomorrow, you could be like, yeah, done it. Played in big tournaments abroad, completed it. You know what I mean?
And then just on the competition side of things, Darius, is the score taken? Are they in leagues? Like, do they care if they win or lose, or do the coaches care if they win or lose? Or
so the way they do it is this: from when you start kind of playing matches from under 6, so from under 6 to under 8, it's non-competitive. So even at grassroots, there's no like you're playing and you're in a league, but there's no trophy, there's no winners and losers. It's just you're participating. Once you get from 9 to 10, what they do is the league itself is not. There are no winners of the league, but they'll host loads of tournaments. So they'll have the Premier League tournament, which they host every summer up in Warwick. And, you know, again, you'll have the likes of Cardiff, United, West Ham, Fulham, Arsenal, Chelsea, like all these clubs. But there's not necessarily, the onus really is on the academies themselves to instill that, because there are some academies. I'll tell you one thing, yeah. There's no surprise that Chelsea churn out so many players. And I know like a lot of these players don't necessarily play for their first team, but they have like brought up a lot of players who, you know, will play at other Premier League or Championship clubs, because the way they do things there is insane.
as in what, like?
Just so, you know, because you get speaking to the parents, right? Because you obviously play, and some of them are parents that you may have had. So one of the kids that plays for Chelsea under 10s, I managed when I managed my son's grassroots team. And they have, so obviously, like I said, they train 3 days a week. One of their days is a tactical day. So they're already working on like movement, like what do we call it? Patterns, shape.
Pattern to play, yeah.
Pattern to play, yeah. They're working on patterns of play for like an hour, 2 hours. That's their session. Like without the ball, with the ball, unopposed, opposed, just going through patterns. And I would love to, I'm going to have to do this, maybe send you some footage of a game or something. You can see the fluidity in how these kids move. It's just like, you know how our manager would say, oh, if your fullback's on the touchline, you've got to come inside. And if he's inside, you've got to go outside. These kids just get it.
Yeah.
Like they're moving so quickly. And and their dedication. I remember, because I pointed out to my son, ball went out for a goal kick, right? Chelsea have attacked. Ball's gone out for a goal kick. The lad who got to the line and crossed it, right, sprinted back to the halfway line, got in position, and he was in the sprinter's stance like this. And I just looked at one of the other parents and was like, what is happening? This kid is I like it. Like, I like it. Like, I could see they just have a real, another level of like intensity and desire at Chelsea. Like, that's kind of like their main emphasis. I'm not saying it's right, because they get rid of a load of kids, you know. They bring in a lot, get rid of a lot, and keep a few. That's their model. But it's like the ones who make it are like well.
On top of that, Darius, I suppose they are the elite kids too, aren't they? Like, they're not taking just anyone. So these kids are going to be natural footballers, and they're going to take on board what they're taught there too, like, you know.
Of course, yeah, they're kids that have the talent and then have the brain to be able to be coached it like really quick. So you are absolutely right. They are the best of the best. And then you can tell the coaching takes them to just another level, you know, like they have that, man, it's a beauty to watch sometimes, I tell you. It can be a car crash sometimes watching 10-year-olds run around, but when they get it right, man, it's like poetry in motion.
Very good. And you coaching?
Is your son, do you know what I mean? It's so much training. What is it, 8-9 hours? It's 8-9 hours a week. Like, does your son love it, Darius? Does he obviously loves going out training, loves the way it's done? Or do you think it should be more age related to him, like, and not as serious?
It's a difficult one, because it's like everyone's taking it serious at that age. So, you have to take it serious, you know.
No choice. Yeah.
You've got no choice almost. But the one thing I try and do is that whenever him and I are playing football, it's fun, you know, because he does so much structured stuff. I want him to just like fall in love with learning things the way he wants to learn them. And credit to Fulham, they do an incredible job in terms of putting on sessions that are, you know, for the individual. On a Wednesday, they have what's called IDP, individual development program. So the first 45 minutes of your session is based upon an area where you can improve, which is fantastic. But I spent countless amount of hours, which I'm sure we all did, just playing football until like the street lights came on and your mum was calling you and telling you it's time to come in for dinner. Like, and you're there with a ball for hours on end. You never get tired. You can go out and do
All sorts of weather.
The weather didn't matter, like rain, sleet or snow. It didn't matter. These kids nowadays, like, you can't get them to go out in any rain. Like, they're just like, yeah, I want to stay inside. Like, we were running around, like, kicking a ball in, like, but what you don't realize you're doing is you're learning, like it's like you're training like a muscle memory. You're teaching yourself how to do new and exciting things with a ball, you know? Whereas these kids don't really get the opportunity to do that because they're doing so much, like, at football already, as well as school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots to do. Moving on from the young fella, we'll come back to him in another couple of years. So you're at Stevenage with me at the time. I'll share a little bit when I remember you from Ebbsfleet as well. Particularly, I remember when the gaffer said you were coming in. I was excited about it. I knew you were a good player. I had a tough time against you. I remember, like, I probably was known as an aggressive player around the conference, and I remember running into you a few times. That's why I remember it. You always remember when you shoulder a guy, and you feel the strength back. Do you know? I always. But no, Steve.
Oh, but it's just funny because I always say this to him. I'm like, always remember.
But so Stevenage was, I suppose, kind of a bit for you as well. I was injured a lot. I had some great times there. Probably never experienced something like that in a football team. I had a little bit of it at Cork City, but I suppose Stevenage really, you know, was kind of, it was probably the best years of my career. But yeah, I was injured a lot, and you kind of had a few injuries as well. Obviously it took you, you know, past Stevenage, you had the problems, and we'll go into that. But what did you think when you were at Stevenage, and how did you find it? And
mate, I mean, you'll know, and it's so funny because it's like whenever people ask you about Stevenage, it's like people talk about it like it's like a fable or a myth, like Egyptian like myth or something, and we're like, everything you heard is true. It's 100% true. And if anything, like, you're not doing the story justice. Like, there was more to it. Like, you're like watering it down. Like, when I remember, right, because it was the first summer that I hadn't been away. So obviously, you know, we get the summer break and like we go away. It was the first summer I hadn't been away because I was like, we got relegated. I signed for a League Two team. I'm back in the league after, you know, going from Brentford to Ebbsfleet. Like, I want to give it my all. Derek, let me tell you something here. The first day we done what is called a 90-second run. And it was the run from hell. And we used to do 9. And it's like, you had to do like 7 laps, like something. I literally, and God is my witness, may strike me down now if I'm lying. After the first set of 3, I was like, what? I can't do this. Like, I can't be here. I cannot be here. I regret.
And it was after training as well.
Oh my God, it was relentless. And I remember just sitting in my first 3-4 months at Stevenage was so hard, man. I had the manager calling me loser like daily because I'd come from a club that was relegated, and he would just call me loser. He'd be like, pass me in the hallway, oh, you're right, loser. Or I'd be like, oh, you're right, Gaffer. Don't say I'm not losers. Like, it was mental, man. It was mental.
They were tough times. Like, I suppose looking back in the moment, you'd be saying, as you said, like, I hate these runs. Oh my God, cursing everyone and cursing yourself. But then you look back and you say, you know what, like,
It
it,
just,
it got you fit. It definitely got me fit anyway. You know, I know the benefits of it. We all at that club would have thought, like, you know, we should have maybe done more with our time there. But again, you're in a different mindset. You're in a different era, and it is what it is. Whatever happened. But yeah, look, again, mentality wise, it definitely added to my mentality anyway, and it changed me as a person as well.
yeah.
You know, like we we had some tough days,
Right.
but there were some good times as well. Like we were
It was like,
talking
I
about,
say this to
you
people, yeah,
scored
because
against Reading in the FA Cup twice.
listen,
Not bad for a centre half.
hey, do you know what I mean? Like, listen, we had, yeah. Would I do it again? No. No. Am I grateful for being able to have the opportunity in my lifetime? Oh man, am I ever? Because like we're talking like 10 years ago now. And it honestly, whenever like me and Murph catch up, or when we went back for Ronnie's testimonial or whatever, it's just like it's still fresh in our minds, man, because those times they had such a profound impact on us. It's like, remember when we were injured and we would just spend hours in the table tennis room in the around the back, and we were just playing table tennis for hours, just like hiding, like just,
Yeah.
oh,
Because
mate.
you were in there, just explain it a bit more, Derek. Like, if you were injured, you were first in, last out. So like the day was 9 to 5. So
Literally.
so we were in 8 to 6 some days.
Yeah.
So
Let me pro table tennis players by
Oh
the end of
mate,
it.
listen, if we should have taken up a career in table tennis, we
Oh.
would have been home. You'd have probably been the first Irishman to go to the Olympics.
But did you ever go through any like tough times like that, Derek, with a team, but then come out the other side saying, like, I look back at it now and, you know, what a bunch of guys to be with, you know?
Do you know what, Dan? Like, I suppose there's a bit of that in all the teams, but for me, I was quite lucky with the teams I played in. We were like, I suppose I went to Brighton at 17 and I retired at 28. And in amongst them, like, I had the Dave Barry era with Cork City. Then I had the Stephen Kenny with Bowes, where we won the league. And then I came back and we had the Pat Dolan and Damon Richardson era. So, and that was me gone, then that was me done. So like, I was quite lucky I suppose when I was in Brighton at 17 to 19, under Liam Brady and Jimmy Case. That was a tough time. Like, that was the time when the club then hit the wall, you know, when they kind of nearly went under, and they sold the ground, and they kind of went into the examinership or whatever happened back then, and then I came home. So yeah, like, every pre-season for me was a tough time, to be honest. I hate it because I was like 15 stone, and as we mentioned under Joe, like, I was expected to keep up with all the likes of Joe and the likes of at Bowes, it would have been Mark Rutherford or whatever. Do you know, like,
Yeah.
but that's like them being able to head the ball the same as me. Do you know what I mean? That's just not, it doesn't make any sense, like, you know. So I used to hate pre-season, but it was great when you got through it. Then, like, you plow on it and make sure you got all the runs done, and come out the other side of it and you feel great, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And like, Darius, I suppose the last time I would have seen you was probably at Stevenage that time, and then kind of I had dropped off and kind of went my own way, and, like, you know, had a bit of an injury curve and stuff like that, and eventually I had to kind of retire early as well. Derek is the same as well. He had a few injuries, but you kind of ran into a bad one as well, did you?
So yeah, so I mean, I don't think he was at Stevenage at the time, and this isn't the one that I have now, but I was out for a year, wasn't I? I completely ruptured my ankle and broke my leg, and it was in my last year at Stevenage, and I'd done it in like maybe in January. Yeah, it'd have been about January of that year, whenever that was. And I got to the summer, and fortunately enough, because I'd done so well in that season, and I think because the surgeon had explained that I was looking at coming back maybe in October time, like, Burton came and picked me up. So it was random because I had like loads of League Two clubs, and my agent called me and said, "Oh, listen, Burton, like Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank wants to meet you at Heathrow now." And I was like, "Well, like what? Like now?" Like, luckily enough for me, I literally live like 20 minutes from Heathrow. And it was, so I was like, literally jumped in the shower, put some clothes on, I went and met him. He was on a flight to Vegas. And he's like, "Right, I've seen you play. I really like you. So I'm going to get the secretary to call you and we'll get this sorted." And I was like, "Okay, Jimmy, like, okay," like whatever you say. Like, it was random. But so unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, like I didn't get to play at Burton because I spent all my time there injured. And when I came back from the ankle, and then I had an avulsion, so I tore my tendon, my hamstring tendon, like off the bone, not completely, but partially. So that set me back another 10 weeks. And by the time I came back from that, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank had already gone to QPR in January, and Nigel Clough had come in. So when I got fit in about March, I ended up going on loan to FC Wimbledon. And I remember, like, the remit was to get into the playoffs. We were just outside the playoffs. And we got into the playoffs. And we beat Accrington 1-0 at home. And as Murph will tell you, Accrington hated us. We had a real thing. Like, as you know, when we were all Stevenage together, us and Accrington, we didn't mix. And it was funny because obviously we beat them in the semi-playoff finals 5 years previously. So their manager like had a real gripe for me, John Coleman. He hates me. He really hates me. I think he just hated everyone from Stevenage. Like, it was just
I remember that game, actually, the semi-final. I remember the gaffer screaming at me in the dressing room, telling me, "Murph, the only thing tonight, don't get booked. Don't get booked." I'd say the first 5 minutes, I got a yellow card. But to be fair, though, it was a bad yellow. Like, and I remember he was telling me after the assistant in the line, he was going to say, "Get him off. Get him off." But I played the game, you know. I ended up getting man of the match after, so it wasn't too bad.
Oh, brilliant. It was just, it was, mate. So it's like, I went from like worst injury of my career at the time to then going to the, you know, playoff finals and beating Plymouth at Wimbledon and getting promoted. And Burton got promoted to the championship that year. So it was like, it was still great for me because I was like, a year ago, I couldn't have dreamt being in this position, getting promoted with a team like the same way I'd done with Stevenage like 5 years before. So it was just a great like feeling for me. But again, that injury was tough. But, you know, and I don't know if obviously, if you want me to wait to go into it, but like the predicament I'm in now is a completely different one where like I found out that I had arthritis, that I've got arthritis in my hip. And November of 2018, like a surgeon advised me like to never play again, to just stop playing. So that obviously was like a breaking point for me. So that was a real life.
What was the tell sign in that area? So obviously you're playing away. Did you have issues? Did you have problems with it? Obviously, to go to the surgeon, like, what happened?
So I had an issue with it when I was at Wimbledon, but I didn't realize the severity at the time because, you know, it was something, it's called a labral tear, and apparently it's really common in footballers anyway. So when it came up on the scan, the physio was like, these are very common in footballers. Most of them are asymptomatic, like they don't have problems. So I was like, oh, okay, all right, no problem. And as you know, Murph, like steroid injections, they're like there's like popping sweets. Like we'll have a steroid injection, like, you know what I mean, once a week, like easily. Yeah. So I ended up having the injection, and then I broke down again. And then it took me a couple of weeks, and then I got back to playing. So I finished the end of the season with Wimbledon, and then I ended up going to Wycombe in the summer, and they was obviously apprehensive about my injury history. So I done a whole medical and whatnot, and they found that I still had fluid on my hip. But again, I didn't think much of it because my hip was always sore, like it wasn't really that big an issue to me. But the terms of the contract changed. It went from a 2-year contract to a year with an option. But even then I was like, it's fine, because all I needed to do was be in the squad 25 times. So not even like play or be in, I just had to be in the squad, like, which was easy. Like in my head, I'm like, even on my worst day, I can get into the 18. That's not hard. Ended up like feeling something on the third day of pre-season. Rested for a couple of weeks, tried to come back, felt it again. Went to the surgeon, and he gave me another injection, but it was a difficult one. It was like a lubricant one, so it just helped like movement in the joint. So got back to playing in about October. Played Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Saturday, Saturday. The last Saturday game I played, I felt something, but nothing drastic. It was right at the end of the game, no biggie. That Sunday, I was in agony. Like I literally couldn't get out of bed. And I called the physio, and I'm almost in tears, I'm in that much pain. And I'm like, look, I don't know what I've done. I don't know what's happened, but I'm in absolute agony here. And he's like, don't worry, just come in Monday, we'll have a look. So, he just said, listen, you've obviously games that we didn't expect you to play in such a short space of time. So we'll rest it. Rested for about 4 weeks. And I was still no better. Like the pain had subsided, but I was no better. I couldn't go out, I couldn't train, couldn't do nothing. So he scheduled an appointment with the doctor, with a surgeon. So in my head, as Murph will tell you, it's like, I've had 4 surgeries. So I'm not scared of surgery. It's just kind of, to us, it's like a natural, part of the game. You get certain injuries, ankles, knees, whatever, like you get surgery. So I went in there. What's the plan? Like, if I have to op, how long is it going to take? And he just turned around straight away and said, I'm not going to operate on your hip. And I was like, huh? He was like, your hip's not good. And I said to him, I know, that's why I'm in your office. Like, what? Like, I wouldn't be here if my hip was fine. That's like stating the obvious. But he was like, listen, I need to explain to you that hip surgery isn't like knees and ankles. He said the success rate for hip surgery is 40%. And success means not coming back in 5 years for a full hip replacement. So I was like, damn, that doesn't sound too successful if you ask me. Like, that doesn't say, like, success didn't sound great when he put it in that context. So I was like, wow. So I'm just sat there and I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And when like you can feel the emotion building up, and it's like, if you say something, you're going to cry. Like I just couldn't, it would have happened. So I just couldn't say anything. And then the physio started speaking on my behalf, just, asking the surgeon more questions. And he was like, look, the best option for Darius is to stop playing right now for a better life moving forward. And he was like, you've got a kid, you're going to want to have more kids, you're going to want to run around with them in the park and whatnot. You can't, it's up to you, but I would advise you not to play anymore. So obviously, like, my world literally came crashing down, because like football was all I knew. I felt like I had so much to give. I didn't expect that to even be an option. And then for him to go and say that to me was just like, what is happening here? So I completely broke down. Like, when I left this office, I completely broke down. And like, I just got home and I just went to my room, and I couldn't even speak to my family. I didn't know what to say. I just didn't know what to say at that moment in time for days.
When you were going in, Darius, for the surgery with the physio, was there a chance that this could have been like, what were you hoping for? Was he looking at MRIs or scans, the surgeon, and you were hoping for him to tell you that he was going to do a little clean-up of your hip? Is that what you were hoping for going in?
Of course, Derek, 'cause I'm sure like you may have had it, or like, they go in, little clean up of it, round it off a little bit, good to go. It's like, as if you're like patching up a wall, just like plastering a wall or something. But obviously it's not like that. And because a teammate of mine, John Ashton, who played with us at Stevenage, had the same thing.
Yeah, he had a hip shave, didn't he?
He had his hip shaved. So in my head, I'm going, oh, well, he had it, I can have it. Do you know what I mean? It'll be fine. But obviously, different surgeons, different opinions, different times and whatever. But yeah, I just didn't expect, even though the physio was like to me, listen, don't go in with any expectations. Like, I had no doubt in my mind I was just going to go and have surgery. And the only issue was, when was I going to come back? And I was like, if it's 4 or 5 months back, then, you know, I can get fit and I can prove myself to earn another contract because I believe in my ability. So what I expected as opposed to what I got out of it were two completely different experiences.
It's a
So what
side
did
of
you,
the game that's not kind of looked at, is it? And even Derek, you might have a good input on this as well, because you retired early at 28. It's like, you know, it's you play the game that you love, then you go playing it professionally, and then there's all this sort of stuff like you are going to get injured at some stage. I don't know if there might be a rare couple of players out there that never ever picked up any knock or any injury, but I doubt that somehow. But it's as you said, like it's like, right, yeah, right, broke my ankle, thrown a few screws there, and I'll see you there in about a month. And, or something like that. You just think that like anything can be fixed, or you know, like you break your leg, yeah, broke my leg, fine, yeah. And the funny thing is, like, I've got so many injuries over the years. Like, I can't even remember probably the sorest. Like, I broke my leg, did my cruciate. I think the shoulder coming out actually was probably the sorest one. Dislocated shoulder. That was probably the worst one. But it's weird, and that you wouldn't think of it. Whereas if you turned around to someone and said, "Oh, I'll break your leg there on the street," do you know, like, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's not really that sore anyway, so go on."
Oh man, it's just like I say, it's just people don't understand, and it's funny because being in the position I'm in now, where I know like my career is coming to an end, and that shock, but it just kind of like puts things into perspective. Do you know what I mean? And it like, someone asked me the other day, like, is it worth it? And I was like, no one's ever asked me that before, you know? Like, was it worth it? And yes, it's worth it. Like, come on, man. Like, we all grew up as kids wanting to play football. Like, of course, there's billions of kids that want to do it. Yeah, it's worth it. But it's like, there's a lot that comes with this, man, that people wouldn't even understand. And as much as they say, oh, I'd give my right arm to like be in your position. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. This honestly isn't for everyone. That's why there's only so few of us can do it. And that's why people around the world like idolize us and make us role models without us even asking, and like pay, you know, their hard-earned money to come and watch games, or like, you know, watch them on TV, or go to the park and play and pay to play, because everyone knows like not everyone can do this, man. It takes a special kind of person, and not the ability. The ability is one thing, but the mentality it takes, the stuff you have to go through daily, like the stuff,
sacrifice, the relentlessness of it's 24/7, 7 days a week, weddings, funeral, whatever. It's just you're just signed over to football, and people they might hear it every now and then, but unless you know you're close to someone or you're in it yourself, you just don't know what you have to go through. The mental trauma, the physical trauma, all of it is you need to be a special character to be able to get through it, you know.
Yeah, there's so many levels to it, man. It's just like you almost have to look back and say, like, I am like a different kind of being, because, or is this not swearing? Because I've been trying to watch my language.
But
it's like, I mean, you know, like what? Imagine Graham Wesley in like a normal corporate world. Like, do you think people could get spoken to the way we got spoken to?
I want to speak to my union rep. Where's the HR?
Yeah, no, it's like, yeah. This is a brilliant story. I'm not going to name names, but this is between our world and corporate. No word of a lie. May God strike me down now if I'm lying. My friend yesterday, right? She's head of payroll, and she needed someone to submit something so they could get like their bonuses. She emailed them. The email said, hi, so-and-so, could you please send in something before end of play today? She got an email back like an hour later from HR, has brought up this issue about the bluntness of your request. and she had a whole like HR meeting about this, and I was like, which part of what you said was offensive? Just please tell me, because I wish people spoke to me like that when we was in. Darius, get there now, please. Otherwise, we won't be able to go. Like,
do you that reminds me? Remember they had the altitude machine at Stevenage, and like we were all kind of giving out about it, Derek, right? So I think it was either Dino or Tumble came in. One of them came in there one day and basically said to us, "Right, lads, if you don't want to use it and you don't want to be here, get out, go now. I'll release your contract on the way out. There's the door. Whoever wants to go." And then do you know the way footballers are? Like we're all like, when the gaffer's not there, the coaches, we're like, "Oh, screw this place!" Like, and we're not doing this altitude machine. It's a joke. What's going on here? This is ridiculous. And then they put it to us like that, like, leave, or he said they'll pay up. It was like a quarter way through the season. They said I'll pay your contract till the end of the season, but just leave. I don't want you here. And no one left out of a room of 25 moaning lads. Like,
yeah, of course we didn't budge an inch.
So that'll tell you what it was like there. We didn't like it, but we loved it.
Oh, mate, do you want to tell the story about when you had to like append Moose?
That was a dark time. We'll leave that off for a different day.
Training grounds.
But seriously though, when you're in that environment, it was that environment, and whatever they say about it, he created, like, it was a winning environment. Like we went from the conference to League One and went into the playoffs and lost out to like Sheffield United, but that winning mentality was there, and we went far. We beat Reading in the FA Cup, beat Newcastle in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
That team and that dressing room was kind of probably one kind of in a million. It was geared up that we wanted to win. It didn't care. We didn't care what the cost was. We put our bodies on the line. I mean, there's a lot of lads like, could have finished early, had a lot of injuries. We worked hard, but again, like, maybe it's something that you look back and say, look, it wasn't the Champions League with Manchester United, but it was a great time. Like, it was a great time for both Stevenage Football Club, their fans, for us, for everyone. So that's, you look back and in fond memories. But just going back to the injury, like, so it is arthritis, is it, in the hip?
Yeah, so it is. What would you call it?
Did you have arthritis as well, Derek? Sorry.
Yeah, I go on yours, Darius. Is it osteoarthritis or is it rheumatoid or
osteo? That's the one.
Okay, so osteoarthritis is like from wear and tear. Like most of us will get it when we're older. Now I have osteoarthritis in my right knee where I done my ACL back in 1999. So. Yeah. And there's bone on bone, say about that size, and back in about that was 99 when I done my cruciate ligament, and then I was in Bose in 2002. It started coming at me, my knee coming at me, but they said it was tendonitis, and they gave me orthotics and stuff like that. And then I retired in 2005, missed the start of the season, so I lost my place in the team. So Dan Murray and Alan Bennett went centre half, and they were brilliant for the year. So I spent most of that season on the bench. But afterwards, I got microfracture done when I retired, about maybe 7-8 years ago. I got microfracture done on that kneecap where it's bone on bone. So they drilled a lot of holes in the kneecap, and a lot of blood comes up with nutrients in it from the bone marrow, and that creates a kind of a scab, which is a type of, they're trying to manufacture a bit of cartilage. Like a fake cartilage from a scab. But I went back again. It didn't do anything for me, but they want, it was a knee replacement was the next step. No, I'd retired a good bit a long time at this stage, but it's only now, I suppose, putting the pieces together afterwards, I realized what actually happened, because about 2 years ago, I got diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis, which is a genetic. It's an autoimmune disease. So what it is that, let's say, my immune system is sending out inflammation, and it's attacking my joints. So I'm on immunosuppressants now to half my immune system to stop that. But I suppose you were talking there a while ago, Darius, about or Darren, is it worth it? But for me back then, when I could barely get off the couch at times, I was going, fuck it, no, it wasn't worth it. But I thought it was down to football had caused this, and I was going, how long? Like I'm in my 30s, I can barely get off the couch, I can barely walk. I'm going to have to get a knee replacement. Don't know how that's going to affect my job in the airport police fire service. Yeah. Like my kids are very young, want to play football at the back. I was going, fuck, like my buddies are walking around with perfect knees, and they never played football to this extent, and they're able to go do their 5K runs and do what they had. So for me at that time, it wasn't worth it when I was blaming it on football. But once I realised that it was an autoimmune disease, I was kind of delighted about football again, because what happened then is that was like a miracle drug for me. So I take injections every month, and it suppresses my immune system, and it's been like it's been a miracle for me, Yeah. It's been a game changer.
And just on your comeback, Darius, like you put a lot of work in to coming back from this. Obviously, being told in an office, you're never going to play again. I suppose, Derek, you were told you're never going to play again, and you didn't play, which is horrendous to hear. But
I had stopped anyway, see, Darren, so it's different. It's different.
Okay.
I was kind of just cycling, and I was only doing my own bits.
Okay.
So for Darren, it's totally different, because it's still his career, it's still his way of earning money,
Yeah, like, to be fair, obviously you took a positive path. Was there a bit of a downfall first, and then you kind of said, screw this, I'm going to go for it anyway, or what? Like, if someone tells you you're not going to play again, what, like?
Did you get a second opinion, Darius, on it?
No, so it was like I was asking the physio for a second opinion for a long time, and I think the physio didn't want to do it because he was like, listen, this is like one of the top surgeons in the world, and also I don't want you to get your hopes up if like another guy comes in and says, he's going to do it, because you would have to ask, because surgeons are obviously like prone to want to do surgery, right? They make big money. So it's like, you would have to ask his motives as to why he wants to operate. Does he really believe he can like get you back? Or is he just saying it because, they really have no liability, whatever happens, like you're signing a waiver. So it's like, if it goes well, brilliant. If it doesn't, I'm getting paid and I'm safe anyway. So I didn't get one, but I remember, right, obviously I spent about 2 or 3 months kind of just grinding through the days, just kind of doing rehab. But, it's like, I know I'm retiring. At this point, like, I know I'm retiring because it's a no-brainer for me. You're talking about me having hip replacements and being in wheelchairs. Like, I'm not on that, like, before I turn 40. But it was one game, right? And you guys will know this, right? Because watching is the hardest thing for us to do. Like, watching is the hardest thing to do. And it was a Tuesday night game. And I think we lost 1-0. And through the whole game, I'm like, if I was playing, I'd have done that. Or he should have done that. You should, like. And I just said to myself, like, I've got a real fire in my belly still. Like, I can't, like, I'm not ready to give this up. I'm not ready to give this up. And that was a day in April. I can't remember which one, but it was a day in April. And from that moment forward, I was like, I don't know what I have to do. I don't know what it takes, but I am going to be a professional footballer again. So it really like kind of started that night when I made the decision, to myself. And like,
were you about 30 then, Darius, is that?
I was 31. Yeah. Yeah.
And
so what happened? What was the change? Sorry, Darius, have you a light? Can you turn on the light there?
Yeah, sorry, I know it's dark in here, isn't it? It's the lighting. I don't know what's going on. It's a bit moody.
Don't worry, I got caught for that last week as well, Darius. Myself and Derek turned on the light at 7 o'clock when we came on.
It's not great, you know what I mean? We had great. So what was the first step for me? I think I don't know how this happened, right? I came across this guy, this Irish guy from Dublin.
I had to be an Irish fella to heal you, like.
Had to be. Right. So, and he was a mobility coach. And I was just kind of going through his stuff. And he had the exact same thing that I had. And I was like, oh my God, this guy, like, I have to get in contact with him because, you know, he was saying that I've created more range of movement. I've got more space in my hip. I've, you know, got a better way of life.
Was
So
he
I contacted
was
him
he
and
based
said,
in
you
London,
know,
Darius? Sorry, was he? Or
no, he's based in Dublin.
he's based in Dublin.
Yeah.
You know his name, no?
The Instagram is Rob_movement.
Okay.
And he's like a mobility specialist. I think there's 2 of them.
Okay.
Rob was the one I contacted. And yeah, I'd just said to him, like, listen, this is what I've got. You know, help me, please. Like, I'm desperate. And then he sent me a video to follow, and I sent it back, and he was like, yeah, no problem. Like, I can help you. So then I started to do his exercises. And I started to, for the first time, like, I actually started to feel better. Now, I'm not talking like massive, you know, amounts, but it's like, just like a little 1%, and a 2%, a 3%. And I'm like, this is the first time I'm actually starting to feel better now, you know? And at the time, I'd kind of just become vegan as well, because I was trying to lose weight, because I was like, right, the more weight I lose, the less weight going through the hip and less impact and all that. So I was doing all these little things. And I got to the end of the season, obviously, and maybe a week before the end of the season. And because we were trying to make 50 points, like, I never went in and had a real conversation with the gaffer, because I was like, I know he's got a job to do. I'm the last thing on his mind. It's like, I've come here on good money for Wycombe, and I barely played a game. And I know he loves me to bits and he cares about me, but he's got a job to do. He's got to make sure the lads are ready to, so cool. So maybe a week or 2 before the season ended, went into his office, and I was like, look, gaffer, like, I just want to apologize for, like, letting you and everyone down. Like, I feel like a fraud. And he was like, Darius, you have not got to apologize for anything, because what you've given in terms of your attitude, in terms of turning up every day, being like positive, being a good senior pro around the boys, like, I couldn't have asked for anything more. And, you know, that made me feel good. Obviously, you're like, oh yeah, okay, like, yeah. But it's like, it did make me feel good, because he's an incredibly sincere man, like a very honest and genuine man. So I knew he meant it. And then I said, look, like, I'm starting to feel better, you know? And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, for the first time, I'm actually starting to feel like I might be able to come back. And I was wondering, if I got in decent shape, would I be able to come back pre-season? And he was like, yeah, of course, love to have you back. So
was this now, Darius, you the option or they had the option of the next year? Was that what this is now?
Yeah, they had the option of next year, and I hadn't met the commitment, because I'd only been involved in 7 games. So of the 25 that I needed to be to trigger the next year.
Yeah.
So the gaffer was like, of course, come back, whatever. And I was like, would there be a chance for me to sign or whatever? And he was like, listen, come back, prove your fitness. We'll have that conversation as and when the time comes. So obviously came back in the summer, and like, management and physio staff were incredible. Like, I have to give a shout out to my man, Isaac Lecky, because he was like the understudy physio, so to speak. And, you know, he gave me all his time, day and night, like, devoted himself to me. And we really worked like tirelessly together. So I went through that process, and then I was able to like train every day, albeit, you know, my workload was different for the rest of the boys. I couldn't stay out for as long as they did, but I was starting to train with the boys and get involved. And, you know, like, that starts to make you feel good. And then you're like, oh, like, I'm part of it, buzzing. So then first preseason game, I think, was Brentford. And the gaffer was like, oh, like, you've been doing all right. Like, I don't mind giving you like 10 minutes. So I was like buzzing. I was like, that'd be brilliant. And this is the funniest thing ever, yeah. And it was such a humbling experience, because bear in mind, I was like, marquee signing the season before. This is the new season, right? I come back, everyone knows who I am. Come back, the gaffer's like, right, you're gonna go on now. So I'm like, brilliant. So then at the pitch, like, doing my socks and shorts, whatever, I go on, and as I'm running on, the announcer goes, and coming on for Anthony Stewart is trialist number 6. I was like, I've never been a trialist in my life. let alone at, do you know what I mean, the age of 31 going on 32. I mean, being at this club last year, it's like, the least you can do is say my name. I mean, you know it. Like, I played 7 times during the season before, but it was just like, it was just such a humbling experience, but it was so funny. But so then I played 10 minutes in that game. And then you know how it is. It's like the first team kind of play like a specific game, and then the rest of the boys play another game. So it's like I was playing like the lower league side, so to speak. So I played Wildstone, Maidenhead and whatnot. And I got up to about 45 minutes. And then at the end of the Maidstone, Maidstone game, like the gaffer, because it was the last game, it was the last pre-season game, and he pulled me into the changing room and was like, listen, like we're so pleased for you, you've done really well. Like we're gonna offer you something. Oh man, honestly, I was just over the moon. Like I was so over the moon at that moment, but I was still nervous and anxious because obviously like, I haven't put pen to paper yet. So that time leading to the contract, it's like, I'm not training because like I'm not risking like, you know what I mean, this good thing going on. And this is how crazy football is, right? And I don't know, Derek, if you know Adam Elab. Do you know Adam Elab from your time at Brighton? Or would that have been just before? No. Adam Elab. No? Yeah. So I signed, right, on a Tuesday night at home to someone. I can't remember who it was. And that Saturday, for some reason, there was a dispute or whatever, and our captain ended up leaving like the following Saturday or something like that. So I've only signed like maybe 10 days before, and then there's an injury to our right back. So we're going up to Fleetwood the night before, and like I'm looking at it thinking, well, in normal circumstances, like I would go straight in, but this is a normal circumstances, like. So I wasn't expecting to be involved or anything. And then on the day, the gaffer's like, would you reckon to start in? And I was like, like what? Because in my mind, I was like making up every possible scenario where I wouldn't play. I was like, nah, he'll do that or he'll do that. Like, there's no way. Like, I'm just here to make up numbers. But I was like, yeah, okay. Like, yeah, I guess, yeah, why not? So we're in the dressing room getting changed or whatever. And I'm just going about my bits. And then we go out and do the warm-up, and the lads are like, oh, D, buzzing to have you out here. And I'm like, yeah, man, it's good to be out here. But I'm not really like, for some reason, it just wasn't like going into my head what was happening. And then obviously you're doing your final bits now when you're back in the dressing room before the whistle goes. Or, yeah, before the assistants knock on the door. So we knock on the door, show our pads and whatever. I'm in the tunnel now. And then we walk out. And I'm like, then it hits me and I'm like, hold on a minute. Like, this isn't a pre-season game. This is a full League One fixture. And I'm like, oh my God, like, how have I ended up here? And I literally started to well up. Like, there's tears in my eyes now. And I'm like, Darius, you're going to have to head a ball in a minute. Like, we're not doing this. Like, crying is not an option right now. But honestly, like, just being there felt like the biggest achievement ever, because it was like, I was meant to be there, man. Like, everyone told me, not everyone, but, you know, people in high positions, like surgeons, even like, you know, friends, specific ones were like, you know, you won't be able to come back. Like, my partner at the time was like, no, you won't be able to come back. Like, you won't be able to come back. And I was like, through all of that, I've made it here. And I was just like, if I never play another game in my life, I've done it. I've done it, man, because I set my heart out to do something against all the odds. I achieved it. And it went from that to playing I've played like 30 games this season. Do you know what I mean? I've missed a few because I can't play Saturday, Tuesday. Like, I just can't do it. But it's like, I've played 30 odd games this season. I was begging for a contract, let alone to be one of the first names on the team sheet. And it just gives you like another level of like gratitude and humility, you know, that one, it can be taken away from you at any time. And two, it really is just a blessing to be out there doing the thing that you love, man, you know?
Mm-hmm. Fair play,
excellent to
Darius.
hear.
That's
Yeah.
some, to get back playing at that level again for what you were told is some achievement. It just shows the determination you had to make it happen. You know.
Yeah.
And what was is the pain, Darius? Is it after games? Obviously, when you're going into games, you must feel quite decent. The fact that you're able to start the match. Is it after games when it's at its worst?
Yeah, so after games is when it's at its stiffest. And the thing is, as you know, it's arthritis, so we live with it every minute of every day. You know, it's like you take a wrong step, you're like, oh, like, you know, it's like, for me, the hardest part of my day is putting my socks on, because getting down, like, to put my socks on is, honestly, I'm telling you, you would rather watch paint dry, because it is boring. And it
The only thing, Darius, is that you've something to look forward to and stop playing that hip replacement. You won't know yourself.
I don't have to worry about that, mate. I'll have hit my knees every other
Something
like,
to look forward to. Yeah, another 5 years.
oh, class.
But like you did, I suppose talking about the determination, like there was a lot of hard work went into it. I remember seeing your Instagram stories there, and you know, like you were working relentlessly day and night. You kind of left that out a small bit. Like what, like.
Oh, man, yeah. And because it was one of them where it's just like, it was no joke. And you guys know because you've been it, but it's like, when you are working to get back, it's tireless, man. There's so many boring days where you're the only one in the gym or the last one left, and you've got no energy in your body, you're knackered, you're drained mentally and physically, and you just got to keep churning away. So for me, from like, you know, the moment where I decided I was going to play and I got in contact with Rob to do the program for me, literally every day, there was no such thing as a day off. Like there wasn't a day off, because it's arthritis. It's like I have to do mobility every day, 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. I have to, because I want to give myself the best possible chance to play, and I want to obviously slow down, you know, what's happening in my hip, especially while I'm playing. Because if I wasn't playing, I feel, you know, I'd still feel it, but less, because I'm not putting my body through that strain, right? But when you're putting yourself through that much strain by playing, you have to like double down on everything you're doing. So my routine every day is get up in the morning, stretch first thing, get into training, stretch first thing, you know, activate for, like, my activation session was an hour. So like activating glutes, thighs, quads, all, like thighs, hamstrings, all of that, making sure the muscles are as warm as they could possibly be, just to go out and train for like half an hour, 45 minutes. And even if I'm not, even if it's just a weight session, because my week now is I only go out and train on a Thursday and a Friday, and only for about an hour. Do you know what I mean? Up to an hour, depending on, you know, how tough the session is, which obviously Thursdays, Fridays, they're not their toughest. But on a Monday and a Tuesday, like, you know, the session I've got to do to keep my cardio up, to make, you know, leg strengthening exercises, was just like, man, you know what it's like? It's like, you can't even be asked to shower at the end of the day. You're just like, I just want to click my fingers and teleport and be home on like clean sheets, you know, with my...
How do you substitute, Darius? How do you substitute the cardio with the team, say, with the individual? Are you doing a lot of bike work or rowing? What kind of way are you doing it?
So now it's bike for me, and a lot of and pool work as well, which is great. And I'm not the best swimmer, but you know, it really helps, obviously, like the load bearing. And bike, as I say, is like a brilliant way to do it, because even a rower is difficult for me, because this, the whole bring your knees to your chest is like, and even, you know, bike isn't necessarily advisable for it, but I can obviously have the seats high enough that my knees don't come up so high, so it's like I'm not doing too much, like getting too much flexion in my hip. But so that is, yeah, literally like that. And boxing was something I'd done a lot of as well to keep the fitness. And that really, the boxing really helped keep me like mentally, you know, in the summer especially, like that kept me, because, you know, I'm thinking about not getting my head punched off. I'm not worried about like my hip paying me. And it was a release, you know, because we don't get a release. Like, we don't get a release. It's constant, like it's constant. So to be able to like hit someone, get hit, and just learning a new skill was incredible for me. Just keeping like my mental, right at the time.
And how do you feel in games then? Are you feeling like, if you're coming up against someone quick that you can't, you know what I'm talking about? Sometimes you go beyond that, 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 I suppose, how to explain it to people is that like you have a bit in training, but then in a game there's that adrenaline, and if you have to chase someone that's quicker than you, then that's what happened to me a lot of the time, is that I was that adrenaline rush, and I try my whole heart and soul to get there, but your muscles then obviously can't take it. So but
let me tell you something, and it's so crazy because I was blessed with pace, right? So it's all right when you've never had it, but like to go from having it to not having it is like, oh man, I can't just chase that man down anymore. It's like I've got to figure it out. And to be fair, it's helped. Position. It's helped my game. It's helped my position because now I've got no choice. Like I better be in the right position before the ball's played. Otherwise, this kid is going to make me look like a flipping bag of nuts and screws, because I could not, like, I'm probably at 75, 80%. Like that's where I'm at. So it's like my best is now 80% max of what I could have done. And I may not feel great on the day. So it's like I don't even know what I'm going to turn up like. So you're damn right, I better be in the channel before that fullback gets it out of his feet and plays it there, or do you know what I mean, touch tight so the striker can't turn and run at me. You must be kidding. I'm going to ground straight away. You're just going to get 6 studs in your shin because I can't chase you anymore. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's just the way my game has changed has been like it's been again another humbling experience.
No, fair play, Darius. It's great, like, because I think this show, Darren's show, but it really is for young kids, young players, parents, like, and showing what it takes and what's needed if you want to make it and stay at an elite level in football. And your story it goes to show like how much determination and grit is needed to keep doing what you love doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny because I grew up, like wanting to like inspire people. I was like, oh, I'd love to like inspire people, and it's just funny that obviously it's through my kind of like, I say tragedy turned into triumph. Like that's kind of the way that I've been able to show like younger pros who are struggling or whatever that you can come back from anything, and these times will pass. And you know what? Football isn't the be all and end all. I know it feels like it because I've been there, but it's really not. There's so much more like after football or even during football, like especially now, like you've got so many opportunities to like create money. You can go and in your spare time just bloody make a YouTube channel and make money just, I don't know, playing PlayStation. So it's like there's just so many different ways to like make money now. And I think that was the biggest thing for us growing up. It's like when we were playing football, that was all we could do. Like there was no option of like, having a side job or a side hustle or making a bit of money on the side. No chance. It was football day in, day out, 24/7, 365 days a year. Simple.
Well, I did deliver yeast around Munster in a van there when I was playing football on the side.
Yeah, so there you go. No, but yeah, this is what this show is about. Like, it's especially, like obviously Irish based, like, but we come from a different background to the UK, like, and it's not as if we want to change it massively, like, but it's some kind of improvements, or a lot of kids go to the UK and come back, but it's playing for Manchester United, Manchester City, or we see the Premiership and we think, you go over there, make lots of money and you're going to be successful, whereas that's not the story, and it needs kind of to be talked about, really. And it was great to have you on tonight, and and hear your experience, and you're obviously a really, really, really determined guy, and I'm sure you'll be successful after football as well. I know you've got a couple of plans in line with life coaching and stuff like that, and you'd make an excellent life coach because you speak well and you're very intelligent, and it was great to talk to you, Darius.
Thank you, Mark.
It's great
Any,
talking to you.
Eric, it's been an absolute pleasure, honestly.
anyone that's listening in again, like and share, please. And if anyone wants to ask any questions or make any comments on the page, please do. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.